The unseen interpreter. Can we truly trust our senses? We navigate our lives with a certain faith, don't we? A faith in what we see, what we hear, what we touch. These senses are like our windows to the world, aren't they? They pour information into us, a constant stream of data that shapes our reality. We assume quite naturally that this reality is a direct, unfiltered reflection of the world outside. But is this assumption truly sound? Could it be that what we perceive is not the world as it, but rather the world as our brain it to be? The world bombards us with stimuli. Light waves strike our retinas, sound waves vibrate our eardrums, chemical molecules drift into our nasal passages. Our skin registers pressure, temperature, texture. These are the raw materials, the initial inputs, yet we do not experience a chaotic jumble of raw sensations. Instead, we perceive coherent objects, recognizable sounds, distinct smells, and meaningful touches. This interpreter is, of course, our brain, and its role in shaping our perceived reality is far more active and creative than we often appreciate. If our perception is a construction, an interpretation, then it is also susceptible to errors, to biases, to illusions. Understanding this delicate interplay between sensory input and brain interpretation is crucial if we are to truly understand ourselves and the world we inhabit. Building our world, perception as an active creation. Perception is not merely a passive reception of signals from the environment. It's not like a camera simply recording light or a microphone capturing sound. Instead, perception is an active, dynamic process. Our brains are not just passive recipients, they are energetic participants, constantly working to build a coherent and meaningful representation of the world around us. This construction project involves selecting, organizing, and interpreting sensory information. It is a process that draws upon our past experiences, our expectations, and even our current emotional state. The world we perceive is, in a very real sense, a world our brain has built for us. Think of it as an artist painting a landscape. The artist does not simply copy every detail with photographic accuracy. Instead, they select certain features, emphasize others, and use their skill and understanding to create a compelling and meaningful image. Our brain does something similar. It takes the raw data from our senses and, using a complex set of rules and heuristics, constructs a version of reality that is useful and navigable. This is why two people can witness the same event, yet come away with slightly different perceptions of what occurred. Their brains have actively constructed their individual experiences, influenced by their unique internal landscapes. Understanding perception as an active creation, rather than a passive recording, is the first step towards appreciating its complexities and its occasional quirks. Echoes from the past, charting the study of perception. The quest to understand how we perceive the world is not a new one. Philosophers have pondered these questions for centuries, grappling with the relationship between the mind and the external world. However, the scientific study of perception began to take more formal shape in the 19th century. One towering figure from this era was Hermann von Helmholtz. He was a physician and physicist, a true polymath. Helmholtz made significant contributions to our understanding of vision and hearing. He famously proposed the idea of unconscious inference, suggesting that our perceptions are not direct readouts of sensory information, but are in fact inferences or best guesses made by the brain based on prior experience. Helmholtz's work laid a crucial foundation. He emphasized that perception is an active process of interpretation, not just passive registration. He understood that the brain uses incomplete sensory data to construct a plausible model of reality. His theories highlighted the constructive nature of perception, a theme that continues to resonate in contemporary neuroscience. When seeing isn't believing, the enigma of optical illusions. Optical illusions offer a fascinating window into the workings of our visual system. They are compelling demonstrations that what we see is not always what is truly there. These illusions are not mere curiosities. They are valuable tools for scientists. They help to reveal the underlying assumptions and shortcuts our brains use to interpret visual information. When these assumptions are violated, or when the visual input is cleverly designed to exploit these shortcuts, an illusion occurs. Consider the famous Muller-Lyer illusion, where two lines of equal length appear different because of the direction of the arrowheads at their ends. Or the Ponzo illusion, where two identical lines placed on converging tracks appear to be of different sizes. These illusions work because our brain uses cues for depth and perspective, learned from navigating a three-dimensional world, and applies them even to two-dimensional drawings. The basis of many optical illusions lies in this conflict between sensory data and the brain's interpretation. Optical illusions are not signs of a flawed system, but byproducts of a highly efficient and adaptive system designed to operate in a complex and often uncertain world. Section 5. Beyond the visual sensory illusions of hearing and touch. While optical illusions are perhaps the most widely known, our other senses are also susceptible to fascinating tricks and deceptions. The principles of brain interpretation and constructive perception apply across all sensory modalities. Our auditory system, for instance, can be fooled in remarkable ways, demonstrating how what we hear is often a blend of sound and expectation, or even sound and sight. The brain strives to create a coherent multimodal experience, and in doing so, it can sometimes generate perceptions that do not strictly align with the raw sensory input from a single sense. A compelling example of an auditory illusion is the McGurk effect. This phenomenon occurs when auditory information for one syllable is paired with visual information of a person articulating a different syllable. What we often perceive is a third, entirely different syllable. For instance, if you hear the sound ba but see lips forming ga, you might perceive dia. This demonstrates the powerful influence of visual information on auditory perception. The sense of touch, or haptic perception, also has its share of illusions. The rubber hand illusion is a striking example, highlighting the brain's flexibility in constructing our body image and its reliance on congruent visual and tactile information. Section 6. The Mind's Mirror: Practical Reflections of Perceptual Science. The study of perception and its occasional deceptions is not merely an academic exercise. It has profound practical implications across a wide array of fields. Understanding how our senses can be tricked and how our brain constructs reality can inform design, improve safety, and even influence justice. In medicine, for example, knowledge of perceptual biases is crucial. Physicians must be aware of how their own perceptions might be influenced when diagnosing patients, avoiding premature conclusions based on incomplete or misleading initial impressions. In the realm of technology and design, insights from perception science are invaluable. User interface and user experience designers constantly apply principles of visual and cognitive perception to create intuitive and effective products. The legal system also grapples with the implications of perceptual fallibility. Eyewitness testimony, once considered a gold standard of evidence, is now understood to be highly susceptible to error. Section 7. Perception in the Digital Age: AI and the Quest to Mimic Sensation. The digital age has brought new dimensions to the study of perception, particularly with the rise of artificial intelligence. Scientists and engineers are now striving to create AI models that can perceive and interpret the world in ways that mimic human abilities. This endeavor is not just about building smarter machines. It also offers a unique lens through which to examine and understand our own perceptual processes. AI models, particularly those based on deep learning and neural networks, have made astonishing progress in tasks like image recognition, speech processing, and even understanding natural language. These systems are trained on vast data sets, learning to identify patterns and make inferences much like our brains do, albeit through different mechanisms. For example, convolutional neural networks, inspired by the architecture of the human visual cortex, can now identify objects in images with remarkable accuracy. However, these AI systems can also be fooled by adversarial examples, subtly altered inputs that cause them to misclassify things in ways a human never would. The development of AI that can perceive also raises fascinating questions about the nature of understanding and consciousness. The quest to build truly perceptive AI pushes us to define more clearly what human perception truly entails. Section 8. The Evolving Brain: Modern Neuroscience and the Frontiers of Perception. Modern neuroscience, armed with increasingly sophisticated tools, continues to unravel the mysteries of perception at an accelerated pace. Techniques like functional magnetic resonance imaging, electroencephalography, and single-unit recordings allow researchers to observe the brain in action, mapping the neural pathways and computational processes that transform raw sensory data into rich perceptual experiences. One key area of research focuses on how the brain integrates information from different senses, a process known as multisensory integration. As we saw with the McGurk effect, what we see can influence what we hear. Neuroscientists are identifying the brain regions such as the superior colliculus and posterior parietal cortex that play crucial roles in combining these sensory streams. They are also exploring how the brain resolves conflicts between senses and how it uses context and prior expectations to weigh the reliability of different sensory inputs. Another exciting frontier is the study of individual differences in perception. Why does one person find a particular piece of music delightful while another finds it jarring? Why are some individuals more susceptible to certain illusions than others? Understanding these individual variations is crucial for a complete science of perception and has implications for personalized medicine, education, and technology design. Section 9. A delicate dance navigating reality with our imperfect senses. So can we trust our senses? The journey through the science of perception suggests a nuanced answer. Our senses are remarkable tools, honed by millions of years of evolution to provide us with a version of reality that is, for the most part, incredibly useful and adaptive. They allow us to navigate complex environments, interact with others, and appreciate the beauty and intricacies of the world. In this sense, yes, we can and must trust them for our everyday existence. However, this trust should not be blind. As we have explored, perception is not a direct recording of reality, but an active construction by the brain. This constructive process, while highly efficient, is subject to biases, shortcuts, and illusions. Recognizing this fallibility is not a cause for despair, but rather an invitation to cultivate a more critical and thoughtful engagement with our own experiences. The practical implications of understanding these perceptual nuances are vast. From improving the reliability of eyewitness testimony in legal settings, to designing safer and more intuitive technologies, and even to fostering greater empathy by recognizing that others may genuinely perceive the world differently. Ultimately, navigating the world requires a delicate dance between trusting our senses and critically evaluating the reality they present to us.